There's a lot of news this week, so we're going to try and cover as much as we can. This is your weekly cybersecurity news roundup. I'm Allie Diamond, and this is ThreatWire. Team PCP continues to wreak havoc on the cybersecurity community, and the fallout has been continuing. Software supply chain attacks have been on the rise over the past few years, and we covered last week how new threat actor group Team PCP used credentials to infiltrate GitHub Actions, Docker Hub, NPM, OpenVSX, and PyPI. It's come out now that Cisco has suffered a data breach due to the Team PCP Trivia incident. The attackers were able to get credentials and data from the build and development environments, as well as AWS keys. The AWS keys were then used across several Cisco-based AWS accounts to do, quote, unauthorized activities. But this isn't the major story we want to cover in the section. We need to talk about supply chains and their vulnerabilities right now. One of the most well-known packages on the NPM registry got popped. Two versions of Axios were hit by what is being thought to be by a North Korean-based financially motivated attacker group. The two versions of Axios that were attacked have over 100 million and 37 million downloads on average weekly. The versions attacked were Axios versions 1.14.1 and 0.30.4. On March 31st, 2026, the two versions were released into the NPM ecosystem containing the plain-crypto-js at 4.2.1 package, which has been confirmed to be malicious. It deployed a multi-stage payload with ability for executing commands arbitrarily and exfilling data. The attackers were able to compromise the account of the lead maintainer of the project and change his email to a Proton email controlled by the attackers. The maintainers attempted to put out bulletins about the compromised package, but the attackers kept using the lead maintainer's account to maintain control and remove the warnings. The issue is that we are not going to stop seeing major software supply chain attacks in the near future. This definitely feels like a new attack vector threat actors are going to hone in on more and more. Google researchers did an analysis of the Axios situation and explained that these attacks by North Korea and Team PCP are not going to be the last that we see. Hundreds of thousands of stolen secrets could potentially be circulating as a result of these recent attacks. This could enable further software supply chain attacks, software as a service environment compromises leading to downstream customer compromises, ransomware and extortion events, and cryptocurrency theft over the near term. I am not a formal cybersecurity practitioner, and this is not legally binding advice, aka I am giving only a thought and not legally binding recommendations. But if I were in the security of software, I would consider circulating and changing all secrets involving any public NPM package or really anything public ASAP to undercut a huge class of incoming problems. Critical vulnerabilities were found in both Chrome and Firefox involving the same kind of vulnerability. Chrome and Chromium was affected by CVE 2026-5281. The details about this vulnerability are still obfuscated, but it is a zero-day use-after-free vulnerability that affects Dawn, the open-source implementation of WebGPU. According to the NIST, the vulnerability could be utilized by hackers to compromise the renderer process via arbitrary code in a well-crafted HTML page. Firefox was affected by CVE 2026-4688 and was given a CVSS score of a 10. It's a sandbox escape attack that is caused by a use-after-free bug in the Disability Access API component. It affects Firefox and all Firefox-related browsers. Recently, I feel like we've seen an increase in the use-after-free vulnerabilities in the wild. If you have caused a use-after-free vulnerability, tell me what you learned from it. I have personally never written one, nor have I been taught the praxis of preventing them. So I'm super curious to hear what languages are susceptible to use-after-free attacks. What should engineers be looking for in code reviews? Let me know so that we can educate the people. I've decided to potentially start calling this section BSides News. If you don't know about it, BSides is a series of community-driven conferences that many times happen as an alternative around the same time as other larger cybersecurity conferences. It originally stemmed as a step away from the overly businessy formality of Black Hat and to be more of a return and focus to community. I've only ever attended 2 BSides conferences. Technically, I did attend BSides Las Vegas. I was in the building. And I did go to BSides New York, but other popular BSides conferences include BSides SF, which actually happens around the same time as RSA conference, BSides Charm City, and BSides Pyongyang. There actually may be a BSides in a town near you or even in your own town, so you should definitely check it out, and I've linked more information about it in the description, so definitely go see if there's one near you. AWS has launched the AWS Security Agent and the AWS DevOps Agent as a way to run autonomous AI pen testing and incident resolution. Just last month, we covered a story on ThreatWire about how AWS blames much of the recent outages on AI written code. As engineers and professionals, we know how launches work and how that often includes the internal use of products and testing before it goes live. So this will be left as an exercise for the viewer. Hosting platform Railway disclosed that they had a major misconfiguration with their CDN that caused incorrect caching of data across hosted pages. They believe that around 0.05% of their domains that they host were affected by incorrect caching of HTTP GET requests, and this was where any form of caching that was disabled by users, so definitely check it out. They believe that some of these requests may have included potentially authenticated data being served to unauthenticated users. AI found vulnerabilities in Emacs and Vim. The Vim vulnerability is an attack chain that uses the tab panel to escape the sandbox. It was patched by the Vim team. The Emacs vulnerability involves opening up a well-formed file to take advantage of another well-formed .git folder. The team did not accept the vulnerability, saying that it was actually an issue with Git and not Emacs. As mentioned earlier, these vulnerabilities were found using AI, but specifically what makes these interesting is that they were found using only one prompt. Please debate Emacs and Vims in the comments below. Emacs and Vim, not Emacs and Vim. Okay, I'm leaving. We're going with it. Emacs and Vims. Emac and Vim, I don't know. Whatever. LinkedIn has been exposed of illegally collecting users' information by scanning for browser plugins and then selling that data to third-party companies. All of Anthropic's Claude Code source code accidentally got pushed to the Claude Code NPM package due to a human error. This open source code now was then used to discover vulnerability in the deny rules utilized by Claude Code for curl and wget. The NIST has finally updated its guidances for DNS security. It's been over a decade since these rules were updated, and the new deployment guide include their recommendations for protecting DNS services and availability, their role in zero trust architecture, and things like guidance on hosting DNS information. I also want to give a special shout out to the channel Chuppel here on YouTube, who did a fantastic expose of the 5 Minutes Craft YouTube network and its ties to Russian cybercrime. It is a great watch, and I really hope there is a part 2 with more information coming out soon. Hoping for it, and I really recommend checking it out. So it's linked in the description box. Last week, I did ask for recommendations about what you want to see at DEF CON, but instead we got some amazing discussions about routers in the US and other topics. I did see some comments saying I didn't do a good job covering the ban of commercial routers in the US, and I totally agree. I think there was more digging I should have done to make the story a little bit more fleshed out. I just literally did not have the time. ThreatWire is essentially a one-woman show. We do have an awesome editor. Hi! And she does a great job too. Thank you so much for helping out with this. I know that there was a lot that I may have missed on that story, so thank you so much for giving me the grace on that. But I will include a really funny story here, in that a couple days ago, I had a dream that I needed to get a router, and I literally couldn't find one because of the ban. So I have been thinking about that story, apparently. Thank you so much for watching ThreatWire for the week of April 6th, 2026. If you want to support the show, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, because we are now officially less than 2K away from 1 million subscribers. I really appreciate every single one of you interacting. Comments really do make a huge difference on videos, so please be sure to comment if you have something you want to say. I do try to read them all. Even if I don't respond, I do see them. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to find me online, you can find me everywhere at Ending with Allie. And remember, good luck, have fun, and don't get caught.